Beneath the surface of today's oceans, monsters still glide in silence. Whales breach the waves. Great whites stalk the depths. Squid larger than boats twist through the dark. But even these modern giants pale in comparison to what once swam here. Once, there was a predator so massive, so terrifying, that its name still echoes like thunder in the halls of science and the corners of human fear. It was not a myth. It was not a movie. It was real. At over 60 feet in length, twice the size of a great white, with jaws wide enough to swallow a human whole and teeth longer than steak knives, Megalodon was the most powerful shark that ever lived. A living torpedo, a submarine, made of flesh and bone. It ruled the oceans for millions of years. And then, it vanished. No final sighting. No mass extinction event. Just silence. One moment, it was the apex predator of the seas. The next, it was gone. How does a creature that large, that dominant, disappear without a trace? What force could erase a giant that seemed unstoppable? And what clues remain in the darkness beneath the waves? This is the story of Megalodon, not as a myth, but as a fact, a beast that truly existed, hunted, ruled, and ultimately fell. This is the story of its reign, its rivals, its rise, and its sudden end. We'll dive into the science, the fossils, the fear. We'll visit the coastlines where its teeth are still being found, and reconstruct the life of a predator so powerful it could bite a whale in half. And we'll ask the haunting question: if it vanished once, could it return? But before we search the deep for answers, we must go back, far back, to a time when the seas were warmer, the whales were smaller, and nothing swam without watching its back. Come with us now, back 20 million years. For centuries, strange objects have washed ashore, thick, triangular shards as hard as stone, serrated like saw blades, and far too large to belong to any known creature. Ancient cultures found them embedded in cliffs and riverbeds, believing them to be dragon tongues, or the tips of mythical weapons. But these were not myths. They were teeth, fossilized, petrified, massive, and they didn't belong to dragons. They belonged to sharks. The first written records of these mysterious teeth date back to the Renaissance. In the 1600s, naturalist Nicholas Steno studied them carefully. He recognized that their structure resembled that of modern shark teeth, but on a monstrous scale. It was a radical idea for the time, one that helped lay the foundation for paleontology itself. Still, the name Megalodon wouldn't appear for another 2 centuries. In 1843, Swiss naturalist Louis Agassiz officially named the species Carcharocles megalodon, meaning giant tooth, and the name fit. Some of these teeth measured over 7 inches long, more than 3 times the size of a great white's. From those teeth alone, scientists began to imagine the scale of the animal they came from. But there was a problem. Unlike dinosaurs or land mammals, sharks have skeletons made mostly of cartilage, soft tissue that decays rapidly. Only their teeth, the hardest part of their bodies, tend to This means that most of what we know about Megalodon comes from teeth, with only a handful of vertebral columns and jaw fragments ever recovered. Still, those few pieces tell a dramatic story. The teeth are found all over the world, from coastal cliffs in Chile to riverbeds in North Carolina, from Europe to Japan. These fossils revealed that Megalodon had a global range, favoring warm, shallow seas. They weren't isolated to one region, they were everywhere, patrolling ancient oceans, with dominance. In the early days of study, scientists believed Megalodon might be the direct ancestor of the modern great white shark. They saw the similar tooth shape, the serrated edges, the triangular form, and made the connection. That's why the original name placed Megalodon in the same genus as great whites, Carcharocles. But later studies would challenge that assumption. Today, most experts classify Megalodon as Otodus megalodon, placing it in a different branch of the shark family tree. The similarities to great whites are now considered a case of convergent evolution, to species evolving similar traits due to similar lifestyles, not direct lineage. Despite the gaps in the fossil record, one thing became clear: this was not just a larger version of a modern shark. It was something altogether more powerful, a species fine-tuned by evolution to dominate marine life at the highest level. More than 100,000 Megalodon teeth have been found to date, some in perfect condition, with intact serrations and roots. These teeth often turn up in phosphate mines, riverbeds, and ocean dredges. They're so common in certain areas that locals collect and sell them blackened by minerals, smoothed by time, but still sharp. And perhaps the most haunting detail, many of these teeth have been found embedded in fossilized whale bones, ribs, vertebrae, skulls, all with telltale bite marks. A puzzle of predator and prey frozen in stone. Each new discovery sharpens the image. Each ancient tooth is a clue, not just to the size of Megalodon, but to its impact, its hunting strategy, its power. And yet, the biggest mystery remained. How could something this large vanish? If you were to stand in front of Megalodon, you wouldn't see a shark, you'd see a force of nature. Estimates suggest it reached 60 to 70 feet in length. That's longer than a school bus, longer than most humpback whales. Its weight, between 50 to 70 tons. Imagine something heavier than a fully loaded semi-truck, but alive, fast, and hungry. Its body was shaped like a torpedo built for speed and force, wide at the center, tapering two powerful fins and a crescent-shaped tail. It wasn't just big, it was built to move. Despite its size, Megalodon likely cruised at high speeds, striking fast and without warning. Its mouth alone was a weapon of terrifying design. A Megalodon's jaws could open more than 9 feet wide, large enough to swallow 2 adult humans side by side. It had 5 rows of teeth, with up to 276 teeth in its mouth at any given time. Each tooth was thick, triangular, and finely serrated, perfect for slicing through bone, muscle, and blubber. These teeth weren't designed to nibble, they were engineered to cut whales in half. Its estimated bite force, around 40,000 pounds per square inch. That's more than double the bite of a modern great white. Enough to crush a car like a tin can. Enough to shatter vertebrae, break rib cages, and tear through thick hides in a single chomp. The skull, though no complete one has ever been found, was reconstructed based on its teeth and jaw fragments. It may have been over 10 feet long, and its head alone could weigh several tons. Its eyes were positioned for excellent forward vision, allowing it to track prey and gauge distance, crucial when lunging at massive targets like whales. Its body was covered in tough, sandpaper-like skin made of dermal denticles, tooth-like scales that reduced drag and helped the shark glide effortlessly through the water. Its massive pectoral fins would have provided lift, while the crescent tail delivered deadly acceleration. But size and strength weren't its only weapons. Megalodon was likely warm-blooded, or at least partially so. Evidence from isotopic analysis suggests that it could regulate its body temperature, allowing it to inhabit a wide range of climates and maintain high energy output. This is rare among sharks, but it gave Megalodon an enormous advantage. It could hunt in cooler waters and travel long distances without slowing down. Its senses were razor-sharp, like modern sharks. Megalodon could detect electrical signals given off by the muscles of other animals. This ability, called electroreception, made it deadly in murky water or complete darkness. It could also hear low-frequency vibrations from miles away, tracking schools of fish or pods of whales without ever being seen. Smell exceptional. It likely had the olfactory range to detect blood in the water from kilometers away. Sight. Large eyes adapted for deep water and excellent vision. Even in dim conditions, every part of this animal, from tooth to tail, was tuned for one purpose: to dominate the ocean. It didn't need venom. It didn't need tricks. It had mass, muscle, momentum, and a mouthful of destruction. And unlike many predators, it didn't rely on ambush alone. Evidence from tooth placement in whale fossils shows that Megalodon would often attack prey mid-body, targeting the chest, crushing ribs, collapsing lungs. This wasn't about scaring its prey. It was about ending the fight in one move. It was a hunter of giants, a killer of killers. But perhaps the most chilling thought: it wasn't the only threat in the water. The ocean was full of other predators, smaller, faster, more agile, and some were beginning to evolve in ways even Megalodon couldn't anticipate. Still, in its prime, Megalodon stood unchallenged, a ruler beneath the waves. But even rulers face resistance. The sun rises over an ancient ocean, millions of years before the first human would set sail. Below the surface, it's calm, peaceful, even. Schools of fish drift through coral reefs. Sea turtles paddle lazily through kelp forests. And then, the rhythm changes. A shadow moves beneath the waves, longer than a city bus and silent as death. It doesn't circle. It doesn't hesitate. It strikes. This is Megalodon, not just a predator, but a sovereign of the sea. It lived between 20 and 3.6 million years ago, during the Miocene and Pliocene epoch. During this time, the oceans were warmer, sea levels were higher, and marine life flourished. The coastlines stretched farther inland, and the ocean teemed with prey, especially whales, dolphins, and large fish. This was Megalodon's buffet. It likely preferred coastal waters, where food was abundant, and migration routes made tracking prey predictable. Fossil teeth are often found in areas that were once shallow. Tropical seas now expose landmasses, desert cliffs, and riverbeds. These environments offered rich hunting grounds and warm temperatures, ideal for a partially warm-blooded giant. And Megalodon didn't just feed, it strategized. When targeting whales, it seems to have focused on high-value body parts, the chest, spine, or flippers. Fossilized whale bones show clean punctures where Megalodon teeth struck with force and precision. A single bite could paralyze or kill. This suggests the shark didn't just rely on brute strength, it knew how to disable prey efficiently. Most active predators leave a trail of violence in the fossil record, and Megalodon is no exception. Sperm whale skulls with missing jaws, ribs shattered and healed, signs that some prey escaped, only to carry the scars for life. In rare cases, bones show multiple bite marks, indicating a prolonged attack or perhaps even a feeding frenzy. But was Megalodon a solitary hunter? The truth is, we don't know. Most modern sharks are loners, but a few, like the scalloped hammerhead, form social groups. Some scientists speculate that juvenile may have stayed in nursery zones, protected coastal shallows where food was plentiful and larger predators stayed away. This behavior is seen in today's great whites and may have helped Megalodon offspring survive their vulnerable early years. Once fully grown, though, Megalodon had no natural predators except one time. It spent much of its life on the move. To sustain its size, it had to consume over a ton of food every day. That likely meant stalking pods of whales across entire oceans, using memory, magnetic fields, and temperature shifts to track migrations. Some scientists believe Megalodon may have followed prey along coastlines, striking during calving seasons or ambushing slower juveniles. Its hunting style wasn't chaotic, it was methodical. A creature that large doesn't waste energy. It attacked when the moment was perfect, when the water was quiet, when the prey was most vulnerable. And then, just as suddenly, it was gone. In the quiet hours, it likely descended into deeper waters, where it could rest and conserve energy. Perhaps it cruised the twilight zones, hundreds of feet below the surface, where only faint light penetrated. Even here, few would challenge it. Mating, birth, and social behavior remain a mystery. Did it give birth to live young? Almost certainly, like modern sharks, but how many, and where? Fossil nurseries suggest females may have given birth in warm shallows, far from predators, but the details are lost to time. Still, in every ocean it swam, Megalodon left an impact, not just on bones and ecosystems, but on evolution itself. Whales began to grow larger during the Miocene, possibly in direct response to shark predation. A bigger body meant better survival odds. Megalodon shaped the path of life in the sea, simply by being what it was. And what it was unstoppable. Until it wasn't. For nearly 20 million years, Megalodon ruled the oceans. It had no equal, no predator, nothing to challenge its throne. And then, it was gone. Roughly 3.6 million years ago, fossil records go silent. Megalodon disappears from the Earth's oceans. Not gradually, not with a struggle, just silence. But how does the largest shark in Earth's history vanish? What force could bring down a predator that ruled the seas for millions of years? There was no asteroid, no volcanic winter, no sudden extinction-level event. Instead, faced something far deadlier, slow, inevitable change. It began with the cooling of Earth's climate. During the late Pliocene, ocean temperatures dropped dramatically. Glaciers began forming at the poles. Sea levels fell. Warm, shallow seas, once Megalodon's hunting grounds, started to shrink. The coastlines retreated. Entire ecosystems shifted. And with the cooler seas came a new generation of whales. Whales, once small and vulnerable, began evolving into giants. Species like the modern blue whale and fin whale emerged larger, faster, and better adapted to deep, colder waters. These new whales no longer lingered in warm shallows. They migrated across vast open oceans, often diving to depths Megalodon couldn't follow. Suddenly, the shark that once feasted freely found its prey escaping. Food became scarcer. Competition intensified. Enter Orcinus orca, the killer whale. While today's orcas may not seem like a threat to a creature the size of Megalodon, their ancestors were fast, social, and intelligent. Unlike sharks, which hunted alone, these early whales hunted in packs. They could surround prey, coordinate attacks, and they may have even targeted juvenile megalodons. There's no direct evidence of killer whales attacking Megalodon, but the timeline fits. Orcas began rising as Megalodon began falling. Coincidence? Perhaps. Or perhaps it marked the dawn of a new kind of predator, one that used brains as well as brawn. Meanwhile, Megalodon's own biology worked against it. It was enormous, and that meant it needed massive amounts of food. As prey grew scarce and competitors grew smarter, survival became harder. Each failed hunt was a massive energy loss. Each season without enough food meant fewer young, fewer survivors. And then came reproduction pressure. Modern large sharks mature slowly and give birth to few offspring. If Megalodon followed a similar pattern, which is likely, that meant it couldn't bounce back quickly from population loss. As habitats changed and food chains collapsed, their numbers dwindled, from dominant hunter to endangered species, and finally, to extinction. No one knows exactly where the last Megalodon swam. No skeleton was left behind, no mass grave. But somewhere, in the dark, silent sea, the final giant passed unnoticed, unchallenged, and unreplaced. Some still claim it survived on in the depths, in the shadows, in the myths passed around fishing docks and late-night documentaries. A massive fin, a shadow on sonar, a tooth found where no fossil should be. But science tells a different story. The youngest Megalodon teeth date back over 3.6 million years. None have ever been found in modern marine sediments, none from post-ice age layers. If it survived, it left no trace, and that's perhaps the most haunting truth. A creature once unmatched, once unchallenged, gone without drama, erased not by a single blow, but by the cold hand of time. The oceans didn't explode in chaos. They just moved on, and the king simply faded. Imagine this. You're out at sea, far from land. The water below you stretches black and endless. A ripple disturbs the surface too wide for a dolphin, too fast for a whale. And then, from below, something rises. A fin, taller than a man. A body as long as a subway train. A mouth large enough to swallow your boat whole. It's the stuff of nightmares, films, legends, and yet it sparks a question scientists still whisper. What if it never went extinct? Could it survive in today's oceans? On paper, the answer is grim. Our modern seas are colder, smaller, and far more polluted than they were in the Miocene. The warm, shallow coastal seas, Megalodon, once favored, are now crowded with boats, sonar, fishing lines, and rising ocean noise. The very ecosystems that once sustained it have been transformed or destroyed. The large whales it once hunted still exist, but they're protected, and they're fast, smarter, harder to catch. Then there's the matter of food. A 60-foot shark needs over a ton of meat per day. In today's oceans plagued by overfishing and ecological collapse, that demand might be impossible to sustain. The predator would starve in many regions. And yet, suppose it had adapted. Suppose Megalodon had evolved smaller, more efficient forms. Could it have vanished into the deep, into the abyssal zones rarely explored by man? Could it still be out there? Science says no. We've explored much of the ocean's biological layers. The largest known predators like sperm whales, great whites, and giant squid leave behind tracks, remains, sonar signatures. A 60-ton shark would do the same. It would leave teeth, scars, echoes. And yet we find none. Still, the legend persists. And if Megalodon were here, our world would change. Overnight, shipping lanes rerouted, beaches closed, fisheries collapsed. Military attention would shift. Museums would explode with new research. Documentaries would multiply. The internet would overflow with footage, blurry, viral, debated endlessly. And humans, we'd be fascinated, terrified, obsessed. But we'd also probably do what we always do: hunt it, study it, lock it away, turn it into something to control. Or perhaps Megalodon would resist, remain elusive, uncaught, a ghost of the deep, reminding us that we are not the masters of this planet. merely visitors. In truth, Megalodon doesn't need to exist today to hold power. Its teeth are sold in markets, displayed in museums, held in trembling hands. Its story is told across generations. It lives in film, in fiction, in the pulse that rises when we swim too far from shore, because it represents something we've almost forgotten, that once the sea was ruled by giants, and some of them disappeared without a trace. So next time you're out on the water and something stirs beneath you, remember this: not everything leaves a skeleton behind, not everything stays gone, and the deep keeps its secrets.